try to throw something together to give a rebuttal to the moral case for capitalism. We have two professors who have agreed to speak here today. So first of all, we want to thank them on behalf of the UTC YDSA. Woo! Yeah, so Dr. Welsh, would you like to go first?
Great. Well, thanks. I'm so happy you guys have a chapter here. I haven't gotten to come to any events until this. And I was asked to speak for 5 minutes, which, as I told my class, me talking for 5 minutes is challenging to limit, but I'll try. I'll try to do it. So I was trying to think what I could talk about, and I thought I'd talk about one of the things I research on, which is Karl Marx. And I want to talk just for a couple minutes about his defense of capitalism, and then ultimately why he feels capitalism is failed. So Marx, noted, as we could note today, a lot of the tremendous benefits of capitalism. We have unprecedented wealth. We have innovative technologies because of capitalism that have provided us with cell phones and this technology recording me right now, and the capacity to build buildings such as the library, and I mean, just so much has been provided by capitalism and by its capacity to make labor efficient and to really redistribute resources in a productive way. It's also emancipated a tremendous number of people from like grueling, brutal labor by those innovative technologies. And Marx acknowledges all of this, and he celebrates capitalists as the revolutionary class par excellence. So capitalists are for him not simply something that must be destroyed in all respects. But he notes nonetheless in Capital that one of the things that comes up in capitalism, the way we represent value, is through money. And money is an abstract representation of value, and it creates certain kinds of problems that capitalism can't itself solve. And so, to very shortly, some critiques of capitalism is that I think that if we think about the problems facing our world today that are caused by money as being the main way we exchange meaning and value between each other, we see we can't solve some of these problems within a capitalist paradigm. So just two comments, one directly related to Marx, and the second a contemporary concern that he didn't take up. And so the first is the way that money devalues the human experience, where we have to, for instance, consider whether or not we can afford to continue having health care, whether or not some people will even receive treatment based on monetary costs, whether or not you can even get educated. As you all know, your education is more and more expensive every year. So all of those things say that you as individuals are not relevant, but rather it's money that is relevant, and that's how we have to make decisions. So that's one set of examples, the dehumanization of people. And the second, I think, that's super pressing for us today is the environment. We can't solve the problems of the environment, which are global, systemic, and which don't easily transfer into the money value. So they're not able to become an exchange value in the Marxist sense. So what is the value of air? What is the value of water? And some capacity for capitalism to respond to some of those environmental crises exist, but not sufficiently to meet the demand that's so obviously present. So I would say I can see some arguments for capitalism from the Marxist perspective, but I think the problems it creates cannot be met within its own system.
Right, and next we have Dr. James Pickard, who will be taking the issue of capitalism local.
Thanks for the invitation and this chance to speak in rebuttal to Mr. D'Souza's performance, which, in my mind was little more than a comedy farce, an act, and such a wonderful introduction speech about Marx. I want to take my comments to be a little bit more specific, pointedly directed here at UTC. I've been a professor here at UTC now for, I think, going on 9 years, and I feel very privileged on many accounts to have found this job. It's a job that I love doing, mostly when I get tired of all the grading and the stress of midterm week, as I'm just getting over conferences and I've had just a brutal week. I remember I do this primarily for the students, right? And in many ways, it's the students that drive me to continue at this job. It's the youth, the fresh experience, the innovation, the ideas that always give me energy whenever I'm stuck in a rut. Because I care so much about the students in my classroom, I also cannot turn a blind eye when I see them obviously suffering in many different ways. Many students walk into my classroom with only the vague notion that they're here to get a job, to make money. And that's what they tell me in our introduction seminar, right? We're here to make money. I don't know what I'm going to do. Tragically, a lot of these students are the ones that are pushed into career paths that they don't find personally rewarding, that doesn't produce that happiness, and then you run out to them after school is over and you find them really unhappy people that hate their jobs, that are stuck in it, and they don't have any idea how to get out of it, right? And this, of course, is a result of being raised with essentially capitalist values driving, rather than the greater good, it's how can I make money for myself. Right? And this is, I think, a lot of the reason why I see a lot of students suffering from stress, suffering from anxiety, suffering, sadly, from depression, right? Because we're dealing with all these pressures of, I need to find a career to make myself money, right? I need to appease my parents who are constantly reminding me how much they're spending upon my education. And man, I better have some payback on this, right? Again, I do love this job. I feel very blessed to have stumbled into UTC in Chattanooga, which is a beautiful city. I love my department, and I know that all my peers in the English department feel very strongly the same way that I do. They would do anything for their students, anything, right? We certainly didn't get into the teaching profession just for money rewards, right? If you think that's the case, I got another thing for you. So, it really bothers me when I see some other forces here on campus not taking your health, mental well-being, and happiness seriously. And I would like to speak about one specific force on this campus, and that is our good friendly bookseller at Barnes & Noble. Right? I'm going to tell you a couple experiences that I've had with our preferred supplier of textbooks here at UTC. When I first began teaching here at UTC, I was doing inter-level comp, and I'd been doing it for a number of years, and I developed a strategy to teach the material where, surprise, surprise, I didn't need a textbook. I developed over the years a lot of different articles that we would put online and have students use free materials in the way that I taught the class. And it was always shocking to me that I was required to sell to my class 2 distinct textbooks, which were not at all relevant to what I was trying to do in the class. So, of course, my best advice to my students was, hey, don't buy these books. Save yourself, at that time, about $130 for intro to comp textbooks. That's outrageous, outrageous. So I said, save yourself some money, return the textbooks if you bought them, and I will teach you without them. Of course, what had happened immediately was Barnes & Noble got upset. My students had come to return their textbooks in droves, and all they saw was money, money, money going out the door, right? Where they thought they had locked in your pocketbooks, now they're determined to make sure they can get that money back. So what they did was they contacted my superior in the English department, alerting them that I had told you all to return the textbooks, right? We need to make sure we're going to have this guy punished and reverse the situation. That was their goal. Never mind the fact that I wasn't using them in the classroom and my teaching philosophy did not require them. That was inconsequential to them. What they were concerned about was we're seeing our pockets get thinner. Fast forward to 2017. You're not aware of this. I'm sure you probably remember this email. We get at the beginning of the semester an email discussing Barnes & Noble contract infractions. This is sent on behalf of our lovely provost and executive vice chancellor. What a nice title that is. This reminded all faculty here at UTC that we are forbidden to suggest, infer, imply, direct students to other booksellers other than Barnes & Noble, right? The exclusivity of our contract with Barnes & Noble College dictates that all university employees, that's me, departments and organizations may not market on behalf or refer our students to outside vendors. What do you think the motivation behind this is? Looking out for you, looking out for your happiness, concerned about you're going to get the best education and get that best career that you want? Or is it just money? They have reminded us that Barnes & Noble has introduced many cost-saving textbook solutions. Such as, and I gotta admit it, they know what they're doing about selling books and making money. The rental, of course, which is the fantastic innovation that I'm sure someone got a nice paycheck for, because essentially you're borrowing a product, paying them for it, and then they get the product back, so they get the money and the product, right? Which is fantastic. It's amazing innovations, right? Cost-saving solutions for them. The new one, the digital textbook, which is fantastic, which I understand now operates like this. You buy a huge textbook, $180 or whatever they're going to charge you, and then let's say, for instance, you have maybe failed the course and you got to take it again. So, well, in the old days, you would just have the textbook, you go back in and take the class again. But now, no, you can't do that. You have to buy the textbook again because they sell you the digital code. Right? So wow, again, I hope someone got a nice paycheck on that one, because it's a fantastic hustle that is being sold to us as a cost-saving textbook solution. And I could go on and on and on and on. What we're seeing here is exactly what D'Souza did not talk about, right? This is the dark side of knowing your market. That is knowing how much you can extract from your market, right? I guess we're supposed to have faith in capitalism that one day you, as a consumer, will have your needs met in a more effective manner, but it's certainly not here in 2017, and certainly not by the administration and Barnes & Noble. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming. Obviously, we don't have a giant auditorium like Dinesh D'Souza had. We are outside. It looks like we've kind of gotten some people to walk up and listen to this just as it's been going on. Right now, if it's okay, can we take some questions?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so we had Dr. Welsh talking a little bit about Marx and the incompatibility of capitalism resolving its own problems, and then Dr. Pickard talking about Barnes & Noble on campus and how it's bad for students. So if y'all...
Yeah, I mean, are there any questions or comments for us? Thoughts?
I mean, it is really interesting to hear the perspective of professors on the campus as opposed to someone speaking from purely the administrative level. So just that insight is very much appreciated, because it's not something we usually get to hear from the professors, and especially not from other workers at UTC, because they face a greater risk of flashback, potentially losing their jobs. So it's just nice to hear this perspective.
If you could come to our faculty meetings, I think your eyes would be wide open. Unfortunately, and I'm sure it's the same with your department, teachers will go as far as we need to go for a student, right? But there are some people, some forces in the administration that don't feel that same way. And my department, I'm sure it might be the same in your department, has been lectured over and over again about how you guys, in their minds, equal dollar signs, about the enrollment and how much tuition and how much money we need to have in a budget, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people in the administration have forgotten what it's like to have hands-on experience with students, and these are real people and not dollar signs. These are real problems and not simply a way to make profit. Go ahead. No, you go first. Go.
How long has this book racket been going on?
This handy-dandy email talks about how our partnership has been going for 24 years now. But listen, it's not just Barnes & Noble. It's not just here at UTC. Unfortunately, this is the bloat and one of the many rackets that you all as students are being taken advantage of. Right? And I think I'd be remiss to not mention, not direct you specifically, but to mention that all of my textbooks are available at other vendors for 1/5 of the price that they're available in the bookstore. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm forbidden to do that. I'm just mentioning some facts.
What kind of punishments would people? Because you said that there was reminding you that you were in a contract and you weren't supposed to do this. So I mean, if you were to break that, what would happen?
I guess my job. They might fire me.
We have a review process that, like most kind of professional jobs now, and so you could potentially get docked in your review.
Yeah.
And if that happened enough, you could get fired.
Yeah.
Even as tenure. I don't know if they would fire you over Barnes and Noble, but who knows? Yeah.
They were certainly upset the first time they found out my students
And
were breaking books.
the reviews are also connected in the rare instances where the state has enough money for raises. They're connected to raises, so certainly it would prohibit you from having a raise that year. If that was how it was written up, and that would be to some degree the discretion of the department head.
Fortunately, my department was very understanding.
Yeah.
They're teachers. They remember what students are going through. Yeah.
I have a question. For either of you who saw Dinesh D'Souza, were there any parts of his spiel that stuck out to you that you feel the need to talk about?
I'm afraid I couldn't stomach it, so I didn't see it. So I can't speak to it.
I had offered my students in one section extra credit for observing the lecture and then giving me their feedback, mostly because I want to know what a novice in economic policy would take away from a lecture like that. My two big problems, and I'm not even going to speculate upon socialism and capitalism as theories. I think they're both equally unproven and unprovable. I'm not going to take a position on either one of those. But the things that kind of shocked me about D'Souza was the open misrepresentations that he was not at all a problem of representing on the campus that's supposed to be promoting academic understanding, right? First and foremost, he made a really haphazard dismissal of the events in Charlottesville and the white supremacy movement in this country as being associated with the Democratic Party, because a long time ago, I don't know if you know this, the Democratic Party was the party of Andrew Jackson, and they had some real racial problems in the party. And, funny thing is, he never said this in his lecture, but I had one student respond to me saying that I never knew that the Democratic Party was founded by the Ku Klux Klan. This is what the student took away from the lecture by this genius D'Souza's rhetoric, right? And that's what he did. He really did. He's a good rhetorician. He had some jokes in there. We all laughed. He got a standing ovation if you missed it. It's the closest thing.
I went to Ann Coulter twice.
It was the closest thing I've ever been to a Trump rally. It's crazy.
Oh my God.
Secondly, another thing that really kind of bothered me and insulted, I think, the intelligence of the audience was his attack specifically directed to Bernie Sanders. He made the comment that said, if you simply take a Bernie Sanders speech, replace every time he says 1% with Jews, he's going to be the same thing as Hitler.
What?
Yeah, that's what he said. Take a Bernie Sanders speech, replace every time he says something about the 1% with Jews, and now we have the modern Nazi party here in America. And as a Jewish politician, I'm sure Bernie would just be overjoyed with that comparison. Again, I think it's intellectually dishonest. I think it was a travesty that someone like this is going to be purporting to be on an academic campus. He was getting quotes wrong, which really upset me as someone who gets paid to lecture. I have to do my research, and he's just making stuff up. It's outstanding. I'm sure he got paid probably my yearly salary for showing up that day.
What did you think of the academic conspiracy claims?
Which was those that academics are taking advantage of our students? Is that what it is?
The one where academics are Marxists who are pushing like social Marxism on students, and because they're like disadvantaged or something.
I've always said in the classroom, I do not care who you vote for. I'm always going to be an independent person. I do care that you become an active citizen and that you start to educate yourself and get involved in politics. Vote for whoever you want to. That's your business, right? But please take the time to educate yourself on the issues, right? When I do economics in the classroom, I think, do it even-handedly. Both capitalism and socialism are functioning in this country together. I don't know which one's going to work. I think they're only been really tried in theory. I try not to push one specific agenda And I urge my students to see both sides of the story as well.
I have a question for Dr. Welsh. Could you, speaking of like how much D'Souza got paid to come speak, could you talk a little bit about like the unfairness of the speakers that they choose and who has like say in which speakers come to campus?
I mean, I think there's a lot of frustration about that. His talk is funded by a private foundation over which this way in which, and I think you spoke nicely about this way in which sort of private companies have been infiltrating universities. So I think much less than, I mean, I don't think my students largely care what I think or even know what I think, but it's not professors who are manipulating student minds. It's this way in which capitalist companies are making dollars off what is supposed to be a state institution. So there isn't any control that the state has, that we have as professors, over who's brought on that particular speaking engagement. But yeah, I think Ann Coulter was $75,000 for the talk. And again, that's not taken from your student fees. So some of the talks that are given here where somebody gets like $500 and that's a ton of money, that is actually, to some degree funded by students. So it's not funded by students, it's funded by a private foundation. But I guess I wonder, why is a private foundation espousing its views in a university campus as if it's an academic presentation? And that's what really bothers me. It's not an academic presentation. This isn't an academic of any rigor or seriousness. And if you are the naive student and you don't know you go to this thing, you think, oh, well, I guess this is rigorous academic work. And that's I think, really misleading. There are certainly intelligent discussions one could have about this topic, but he's just a pundit. And
A comedian.
Yeah, and he's, and I mean, the fact that I feel like the university makes this seem more legitimate than it is. That's what really concerns me. Why can't he just get paid $75,000 and go do it at the Tivoli? And you can go down there and see it if you want to see it. That would, to me, make more sense than it being on this campus.
Especially, he said some derogatory things about academia in general.
Yeah, as they say, we're in a post-truth era. Yeah.
What foundation? You're saying a private foundation. What foundation?
It's the Probasco Chair of Free Enterprise, I think. And so what increasingly, in order because the state and the federal government have rolled back support for your education, because nobody wants to pay any taxes. So increasingly, universities to survive are getting into these partnerships, and that obviously would happen a lot in a business school. So it's been this partnership, I think, largely through the business school. It's not an uncommon thing to happen, but I just wish that if they were going to bring people to defend free enterprise, they would actually bring academics.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that would be totally legitimate.
Absolutely.
But that they bring these celebrities is worrisome, because that's not what academic research is.
It's certainly not a good example for students.
No, I don't think so. No,
But it really, I understand that the series is about appealing to conservative donors, so they can send out solicitations of, this is all the things that we've done, isn't this wonderful, hey, how about some money?
And I think there's a new state law in Tennessee concerned with this manufactured hysteria that we're all brainwashing students towards liberal ideologies. That you have to show that you have diversity on campus, and what they mean by diversity is more people like Dinesh D'Souza. So I don't have to check more about that law, but I feel like there's a law that's sort of concerned about those kinds of issues.
Could one of you talk about how our university takes advantage of using adjuncts?
I would say it's in every university, so every state university. We're paying people probably less than minimum wage to teach courses. So
It's gone down over the last couple of years, though. We don't
it
use
has
a
a
lot of
UTC,
adjuncts
yeah.
in our department anymore.
Yeah.
But they can get you to teach just enough so you don't meet the full-time requirements threshold, so they don't have to offer you the benefits. And we have nice benefits here for full-time professors. We've got a retirement plan, we've got a pension plan, we've got health, we've got dental, we've got all these things. And the more they use adjuncts, the more they don't have to pay those things. Right?
And I think this is the same thing that any corporation would have the same different difficulty is that the lowest paid people, the comparison between the lowest paid people and the highest paid people continues to grow and grow and grow. Much like at a CEO versus the factory workers growing and growing and growing. And so the price that presidents make at universities or chancellors or provosts keeps exponentially growing, but adjuncts are making $3,000 a course or $2,000 a course. And that to me is the most worrisome thing, that division. It's not that state universities don't have a lot of money, and we're kind of all doing this a bit on the cheap because it's a state school. But why is that possible? Why can we continue to pay the upper echelon more and more and more, and we can't pay the adjuncts more? That I find
at the same time, a couple of years ago, I remember they were trying to slash $1 million out of the budget. They're slashing, trying to think about even combining departments. At the same time, they're giving deans raises.
Yeah.
It was, I think, outrageous.
Yeah. So and that would be true. I think at corporations. I think people who work in other industries would see that difference. So, and I would say that is one of the problems capitalism cannot solve. It's a well-run capitalist company will do that. That makes sense.
Well, they try to market it as you're as valuable as your student credit hours in the classroom, right? And that's what they tell us over and over again. And yet, adjuncts are frequently teaching the most students, and they're the poorest paid. Whereas administrative staff and, God forbid, the football coach, the most well-paid position at any university, is teaching exactly this many student credit hours.
Yeah, I think that's generally true. The highest paid state employee in almost every state in the U.S. is the football coach of the major college team, which is super interesting.
So if y'all want to make money,
Go to school for too long.
athletics.
I'm so happy that this group exists and people are talking about these ideas. I think it's just really fantastic. I just can't say.
This is why we do
makes
the
me,
job.
Yeah, it makes me super happy about the future. And I started here 15 years ago. This kind of group didn't exist, so it's really positive.
It's a stronger academic discourse than D'Souza.
It definitely
It only took 30 minutes.
It definitely is.
At a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, it's very cheap for you guys. Yeah, we'll send our invoice later.
Yeah.
Time to fundraise.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again to our
Thanks so much. And please keep me in the loop about what you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
And any other ways we can support.
Yeah, absolutely. So one last thing for everyone, because I know there are a lot of people who aren't involved in our organization. Organization who organized all of this, with the help of these professors, was Young Democratic Socialists of America. There's one more issue of capitalism on this campus that I'd like to talk about real quick because it's pressing, and it's been pressing for about 3 years now. That is outsourcing of campus jobs. Facilities, housing, janitorial jobs are all at risk of being outsourced on this university to a company called JLL, which is based in Chicago, which has given campaign donations to our lovely governor, who is the one pushing this plan on all state entities. He's trying to outsource about 17% of the state's entire workforce. We have been working as an organization for the past year and a half with United Campus Workers to oppose this plan on our campus. UTC is allowed to opt out as an individual. They've told us over and over, oh, we're going to decide this week, and then they're like, not really, we're going to decide later. We're going to decide this week. No, we're going to decide later. So they did this whole thing again. They called us all back from fall break. We all drive back up here. Most of us live in Nashville to talk at this meeting where they told us they were going to make the final decision. We get there, they tell us we can't talk and we can't be in the meeting. So after pouting for a little while, they finally let us talk, but that was it. Then they tell us, no, we're not making the decision now, we're making it in November. So assuming they're telling the truth this time, we need the support of all the students we can get right now. Because if they're making this decision in November, right now it is October 19th. That leaves us only a few more weeks. So if you'd like to get involved, look us up on Facebook, Twitter, just look up UTC, Young Democratic Socialists, or UTC YDSA. We're on all social media. We really need help with this campaign. The projected, usually for outsourcing, they want to cut costs. That's the goal, right? To outsource these shops from the university to a third-party company so that it's cheaper. JLL has promised they won't cut the wages or the benefits or fire anyone of the workers. How does that work? How are they going to save money if they don't cut any of that? Well, the thing is they're not. Projections now say they're going to cost the university thousands of dollars more. These are your tuition dollars that are now essentially going to do the same job for workers, not going to affect them at all, even though workers have said they don't want this plan to go through. Your tuition dollars will be going to a large corporation based out of Chicago, which our governor has a vested interest in. So thank you all again for coming out. Thank you for being critical of capitalism, not just accepting what Dinesh D'Souza and administration is pushing on all of us. Stay critical, and yeah, thank you all.